What's up? If you're new to this channel, I am trying to do as many sports as possible before I turn 40, and this is sport number 3, open water swimming. This is episode 1 or week 1 of my weekly swimming training logs, which I'll be releasing every Monday. So welcome. I'm going to do a recap of the week and also a recap of the last 2 months where I've been radio silent. So what's been happening is not enough swimming. That's what's been happening. Which is slightly nerve-wracking because if I want to do this open water swim this year in the UK, I'm gonna need to be ready by August, which gives me about 4 months. After August, the water here starts to get quite chilly, so I have spent a little bit of time in the pool, not in open water quite yet, except for this one day on my birthday where I ran into a cold pond. So essentially, I have not spent the time in the pool or in the open water that I've needed to be really confident to be swimming 10 miles by August, which means over these next 4 months, I'm going to have to put a lot of work in. I do have some good excuses though, which is that I've moved to a different part of the UK, and also that I kind of really screwed up my knee. Potentially, fingers crossed not, hyperextended it while skiing. I heard a pop. And I have not been able to do heavy back squats. Everything else I've kind of done. Whether or not I should be doing those things, I don't know. I'm just trying to keep the movement pain-free right now, but who needs knees to swim anyways? So let's talk instead about what I have done over these last 2 to 3-ish months. So in January, I went to this great facility in Brighton called Swim Trek, where they had me get in an endless pool and they filmed my strokes and my swim technique, which, as you can see from this video, is mostly just me trying not to drown. So my baseline is, if you throw me in some water, I guess I could stay afloat for a while, but I would need help very soon. So that was me back in January. I also had the chance to go to Spain, and I did some lessons with this really great group called Radical Swim Group. And if you're ever in Barcelona, I would highly recommend working with them. I was with them, I think the session was maybe like 2 to 3 hours. Maybe it just felt that long because swimming, am I right? So I haven't really been able to get on my back and kick. I've had to use kickboards at my sides to float, and today I was able to do it. It was awesome. And then we worked on overcoming some fear issues that I had when I swim and I can't put my feet down. I can't really, and the bottom isn't really in reaching distance of my toes. I slowly become more panicked. Or quickly. He had me take an inhale, a normal inhale, and then get under the water and exhale until I started to sink, and then let myself sink to the bottom and chill out there in the bottom for a little bit and then shoot back up. I don't think that it really registered with me before today that I was having issues with that significant of fear. And it's not paralyzing, but it definitely is a factor. I feel myself getting panicked. So it's really cool. I'm really excited about it. I've also been following some of the exercises, or I should say trying to follow some of the exercises in this book, which I will show you next week so you can get a sense of what I've been trying and where I'm at with them. Again, I just need someone. I need humans. I need help. I do though. I actually need help from a coach, a consistent coach who understands some of this methodology, which brings me to my next point. Over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 months, I've gotten in the pool about 20 to 25 times, which is a lot compared to when I wasn't getting in a pool, but is not really enough. I just need to increase that number. Starting in May, I'm actually getting some open water swim lessons from this guy named Colin Hill at a place called Ullswater Swim Place. I also got on a call with this super cool lady named Becca Harvey. Just gonna put a bra on. Hello? If you haven't heard of her, you need to look her up right now. She's a open water swim guide, cold water swim guide, coach, lifeguard. She does volunteering for wildlife stuff. She's done an ice mile, and she is the star in a film called The Ice Mile, which is an amazing film, and I highly recommend that you pick it up. And I'm gonna stop talking now, and I'm just gonna go straight to our phone call so you can get a sense of some of the really cool things that I learned from Becca. Since Colin is closer and like I can work with him on more of a regular basis, I'm thinking I could probably work with him on my like technique and conditioning. And I would just love, and I think I'd love to work with you about like mindset and understanding some of those aspects. Amazing. I mean, the Ice Mile is a really good representation of that, just because I think if you, from my perspective watching it, and you could probably speak to this better, is like there's definitely some mental barriers and mental preparation that you're probably having to do to make that happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the mental aspect of swimming is just absolutely huge. It can span everything from, for me, mine's complex PTSD, but people have depression, anxiety, grief, even just stress from work. Like, it can all help. But I will caveat, just because this is being recorded as well, that when it comes to mental health, swimming is a tool. It's not a cure.
Right.
Because that can be quite it can be quite damaging to people, because they latch on to this idea that, okay, well, I've seen Wim Hof, or I've seen someone else say that this is the power that I need to overcome whatever I need to, when in actual fact it's just a tool to help you, ask for help or get to the place you need to be, in terms of, okay, maybe I'm strong enough now to go to that GP appointment or to reach out for some mental health help. Yeah, it's all about blue space. I mean, being in blue space alone, it's been proven that it can improve our mental health. Just our sense of being, walking along a beach, and just there's no ego around the water. It's very much like it's this you do you capacity of like, as soon as you take off your clothes, it's like you're leaving all your troubles at the side of water and submerging. I mean, the NHS is doing a big study called the Outside Study at the minute to try and see if they can start prescribing outdoor swimming for depression.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so there's some amazing stuff around all of that. And the best way of showing all that is to just kind of get in with you and show you, really. It explains a lot why that, when we get that dopamine rush after the cold water, it does become addictive. It's like, where's my next fix coming from? Or where's the next, or the coldest body of water I can get into? I don't necessarily enjoy it, but it's one of those things we talk about, like, it's type 2 fun. It's not enjoyable when you're doing it, but it's enjoyable after. So basically, I'll get a little bit more technical for you. There's like 3 levels of response in water when we talk about like our physiological changes. And you've got, first get into the water, you have that cold water response. You have that gasp, you have that kind of tightening of muscles, and you're effectively turning on your fight or flight response. That's what that is. And that is what is my superpower. That first shock response is what helped me manage my panic attacks. So you're basically inducing a panic response, getting into water, overcoming that by, usually it can take up to 3 minutes to subside, but after that you kind of feel this sense of calm, and then you go, okay, the next time I have a panic attack, I can do this, I can get through this. Because you have 3 stages. You have your shock response, your muscle response, and then it will be your core response. Muscle response it basically is when your strength decreases, muscle fatigue sets in, and then, as you would have seen in Ice Mile, I had a paddle I had my paddleboard and my rib either side of me. They were actually looking for what my muscles were doing too. They were watching me to make sure that I wasn't getting swim fatigue or I wasn't getting incapacitated in the water. And this is something that can happen. It can happen. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm just saying it to inform you that you feel like you can't reach as far in your stroke, or you can't do as much as you want to. That is completely natural. It's just your body responding. And the more you get in, the less that will be an issue. Not necessarily at really cold temperatures, but in current temperatures, it shouldn't really be an issue. But when your body is used to being, 36, 37 degrees, when you get into anything below that, it's going to feel cold. Once your muscles have cooled down, your core will continue to cool for like 30 minutes after you get out. So it's really a good idea to have lots of layers with you, even if it's in the summer, because you never know from one day to the next how your body's going to respond.
From this conversation, there's a couple big takeaways that I got. The first one is that 10 miles is doable, nerve-wracking, but if Becca thinks I can do it, I believe her. Once I get into open water and I swim in it, then I'll believe in myself. I hope. But until that point, I will use Becca's belief in my ability to swim 10 miles and I will move forward. So my distance goal that I have in mind at the moment, which I'm somewhat open to changing, is like a 10-mile swim. I mean, how is that crazy? Is that doable?
No, I do. The thing is, though, I must warn you, I'm from a household who's also got an ultra runner in, so we're very much like, if you can do this amount, you can do that amount. If you can do a mile, you can do 10.
In terms of logistics and planning and stuff, do you think a lake?
I think a lake would be easier. With lakes, there's a lot less weather and those sorts of things to think about because you don't have a tide. So if you were looking to do it open water in the sea, you'd need to look at tides and then probably get an expert to know about the eddies or what sort of high tide, low tide you need to complete the 10 miles, depending on whether you're going point to point or whether you're doing a crossing. All that sort of thing comes into play and can be quite expensive too.
Yeah, I can imagine. And swimming in a lake, in a fresh body of water instead of the sea, which means I don't have to worry about sea creatures. I don't have to worry about mermaids. I don't have to worry about jellyfish. I keep wanting to say eels, but I mean maybe eels are a thing. I kind of feel like I haven't really heard about them since The Princess Bride,
Those are the shrieking eels. They always grow louder when they're about to feed on human flesh.
But what I do have to worry about, which I didn't really think of, and which I'd have to worry about in ocean swimming, is shit. Like literal shit. Like sewage shit.
So I've been out of the water most of this year because I got MRSA in one of my ears.
Jeez.
I think that was from the water here.
Jesus.
And because I went I went January 1st, and then I've had ear infection after ear infection after ear infection. So now, even though I was just dipping and not wearing my earplugs, it does count. Always wear earplugs.
That's good to know. Good to know. Don't want MRSA in there.
I work for a company called Swimwild, and we're based in Scotland, and we do lots of different things, but we also organise large-scale events, and one of them was the Scottish Winter Swimming Championships, where we had 500 winter swimmers that would come to a space in Scotland where we had a marina and a set-out 25-metre pool and all this. Anyway, we kind of reported to the venue that we had some smells coming out of the septic tank, and thank goodness we were on lunch. We didn't have any swimmers in the water, but we had a spill in our area, in our event.
Jeez.
Into a lot. And it was just, it was just horrible to witness, because effectively all they did was scoop it out and hope for the best. And it was like, we deployed a spill kit and did all of this sort of thing that you're supposed to do if this does happen. But I never thought that I'd be there witnessing to it, and then just that nothing came from it, that was it. We reported it, did all of that sort of thing, but nothing came of it. Nothing went back to the venue. That was it, and that's the state of affairs in the UK. It's all about the private owner rather than the nature source. And it's the outdoor space, isn't it? It seems to be like that across the board. I mean, there's so many different outdoor sports, and people fight, and especially with this study about, you know, how outdoor swimming could help mental health.
Totally.
Even that elevates it again to say, you know, we should really care about these spaces because they help us as humans, even though that's so backwards to think about that.
I know, isn't it? It's like, why do we... it is so funny because it's like we go so far in the opposite direction, and then we have to do some sort of scientific study to prove that we need nature. So yeah, there's been quite a lot of talk in the news in this country about the sewage problem that the UK is having, about sewage being leaked into rivers and lakes and oceans, and how the amount is unprecedented and not accurately reported. So that's gonna be interesting. I'm going to try very hard as I can, not to get MRSA in my ears or anywhere else. But what I will say is that I am really excited and interested in meeting other members of the open water swim community and hearing what they have to say about it. So I've got a session booked in with Becca in May, which is exciting. So instead of just talking about jumping in cold water, I'll actually be able to see something interesting instead of me just talking to a camera.